All right, I know it wasn't the prettiest game from them, but the Jags still went from having the number 1 pick in the draft to winning the AFC South and making the playoffs, which is a pretty excellent turnaround. So,
Yeah.
Jacksonville Jaguars, you have my attention. It's a great story, and they made enough plays on Saturday. I mean, a couple different things that I think stood out. They stopped the run when they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a huge part of what stood out, especially in the second half. The Titans had a 28.2% rushing success rate on the game. League average for the season is like 40%.
Yeah.
Negative 0.21 EPA per rush. Both of those would rank dead last in the NFL over the course of the season. And they loaded the box. They had 8 or more in the box on over half of Derrick Henry's carries. And that was enough to slow them down, and just hope that our guys up front, against your offensive line, if you have to throw it, are better. And we don't trust Josh Dobbs to make enough plays. And so the defense came up to do that. And Trevor, I know, missed a couple throws, but he also had a couple big time throws in that game, and they could not run the ball at all. So again, in the aggregate, not a pretty game, but they did enough to win.
Yeah, that Titans defense. I mean, that was Denico Autry coming back, and you got Paramo Simmons and friggin'
Autry was back, Fulton was back. I mean, they still were struggling at corner because they just don't have the depth there. But a lot of those guys were back.
But as opposed to the Titans playing the Eagles failing at corner, and they have these guys, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, dunking on you. It's like, the Jags make their living through the middle with Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk and moving Zay Jones around a little bit. That's how they make their living. And then that's why you saw probably a little bit more Marvin Jones this game, because it was like, okay, well, we have to. If you're going to give it to us, well, we might as well take some of these throws. But I agree with what you're saying about with Trevor. He had a couple of the missed touchdown throw. I mean, it was pretty bad, but I mean, Troy Aikman was like a heel commentator there, like in wrestling, like, oh my God, just burying it. Any JV quarterback can make that throw. I was like, Jesus, Troy.
I think he said you just don't see misses like that in the NFL very often, which, man, Troy was also, he was just destroying Christian Fulton early in the game. Did you hear him? He's like, even when he was healthy, he just wasn't playing very well. And I was like, Jesus, Troy.
Holidays are over.
Christian Fulton do something to you? I felt unnecessarily harsh.
Trevor had Lawrence had a throw, and it was a pretty damn good throw. And Joe Buck was like, man, that Joe Buck was like really praising the throw, and Troy was like, yeah, you got to make those, and he kind of just like was not selling it at all. But no, but it was he had a couple of those. But other than that, like the strip sack. The Jags brought some cool pressures. I know the Titans offensive line protection and Josh Dobbs aren't really the top tier in that regard, but it was kind of cool. Some creativity. The one on the strip sack was great because they tricked the Titans protection into sliding four of their guys instead of going 5-0 and blocking the 5 down. So the running back got caught. It's not his fault.
I was really surprised on that. Even with the pre-snap look, it felt like that was not the right choice.
No, it wasn't.
If you look at the play, they had 5 guys down, and then ultimately they dropped Josh Allen off the left end of the defense, and then they brought Jenkins off the right side. So you had 4, because the left guard slid right, you had 4 guys blocking 2 on the right side, and the back was tied up with the linebacker who was blitzing, so just no one touched Jenkins. Yeah, and Dobbs was totally unaware that he was coming. That's it. That's a game swing and play.
That's it. They poked him. Dobbs had some nice pocket movement. That was kind of surprising.
I thought he played just fine.
He had like 2 really, really good throws that I was like, those are like legit starter throws. I mean, he played fine. He played winning football, I thought, other than, the strip sack. And at the end, time runs out. That's why he's a backup.
The one pick was underthrown. Yeah. I mean, he tried to make a play into tight coverage, one-on-one. Yeah, he's been there for 2 weeks. Yeah. I thought that overall, the Titans played well enough given the circumstances. Like, they played hard. They absolutely could have won that game. They stuck in it the whole time. They didn't run the ball efficiently, but I still think that's the right game plan. Give the ball to Derrick Henry 30 times. Let's see what happens. The one guy on the Titans I came away with just impressed again was Okonkwo.
He's great, man.
He does everything for them. Yeah. And he's really like the focal point of their passing game last night. And I think he should be. Like, when you watch him play, he's easily their most explosive playmaker. And they're dialing up plays for him.
He's more polished than I ever thought he would be, like this early in his career. Like, he was just a great athlete, but he is, blocking well. Like, him and Hooper have a fun little combo, but also, like you said, like, he's explosive, but he's like, his route running is a lot more polished than I ever thought it would be. I thought he would just be a kind of an Ingram in a little bit, where he's straight line, or Jonnu Smith. but no, he's breaking guys off. It was pretty good.
Also, some great moments as a blocker last night. He got called for
Yeah.
holding in a huge moment. There was that 36-yard Henry run where he got dinged for holding. But other than that, he had some nice moments as a blocker too.
They and the Titans were dicing him up early up in that fourth down, the 2 fourth down conversions early because the Jags were going to man coverage. I get it. You know, you're not really scared of the Titans receivers, and so they go man coverage. Titans just ran the same pick play twice on the same drive on fourth down.
One to Hooper, one to Woods. Was that it? Yeah.
Yep. That was it. And it was just pick play, a lot of trips with just different guys doing it. But the Jaguars defensive line brought some real heat. This is what we got excited about this group early in the year.
Everybody had a moment.
Yep. Arden Key, man. He had 7 pressures on 19 pass rush snaps. That's a pretty good slugging percentage right there. No sacks, but 3 QB hits. And then, like you said, everybody else stepped up too. Josh Allen and Travon Walker had some nice moments as well.
Walker, sat down Jeff Swaim on that TFL late in the fourth quarter that ended up becoming a huge play. Corey Peters had a TFL inside the 10. Corey Peters did it. Devon Hamilton had a couple moments. Every single guy in the front 7 against the run had their moment last night. They all played extremely hard. They understood what was at stake. And that was the fun part about watching the Jags defense last night, is that especially in the second half, you could kind of sense that urgency when they were trying to stop the run.
Josh Allen, how juiced up he probably was. This is the first meaningful game he's played as a pro. And
he made 2 plays in the first drive.
And you could tell. And that's what his adrenaline was probably just and he took it out on the Titans. But that matters, man. Like you said, that's what these games were so cool, especially like the Packers-Lions game, Seahawks-Rams game a little bit. But and then this game, the Titans-Jags, there's others too. But these guys know what's on the line, and you could just see when it's like watching the World Cup. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit here. When you watch these guys, because a season could be a slog, but once they get to these big moments, these top tier athletes, it's so cool watching them when they're 130% competitive mode, and they're just they're cranked up for all 60 minutes. And that's what's really fun. Why these games are so tight and all these big swinging plays happen is because these guys are cranked up. They know the playoffs are about to come on. It's not week 12 and they're like, or week 9, they're like, oh my God, when's our bye week? I need a rest. They're like, oh, playoffs, we got to go. So I don't know. It's really cool to see these top athletes like really competing like this. And we saw a ton of it this weekend.
They had 3 plays to Christian Kirk in this game that were some of their most explosive plays. The touchdown to him was beautiful. You pointed it out on Twitter. They lined up in 12 personnel with Chris Manhertz on the field, who's their primarily blocking tight end. And they went heavy play action to kind of lean into that tendency. And Kirk was in a condensed split as the number 1 receiver on the right side, and the Titans were in cover 3. And the problem with that is when he's close to the formation, the cornerback there is an outside leverage. So when he sells it to the corner and breaks it back off the field, that's a really difficult assignment for Roger McCreary there. It's just a great call against the right defense in the right moment, and it leads to a 30-something yard touchdown. And then they had 2 plays with Kirk in the slot, and Trey Avery was on him at one point, and they got him for a pass interference. And I think the Titans were like, we can't do this anymore. Like, we can't roll him out there anymore. Yeah. So they started going to their big nickel package with 3 safeties on the field. And then you have Amani Hooker on Kirk in the slot, but that's a mismatch too. Exactly. So they hit him for that huge slot fade down the right sideline. That was a beautiful throw by Lawrence. So those are just some of those moments. I think the touchdown is just great scheme, but those plays to Kirk against Avery and against Hooker, I think that's just one of those moments where there's no Elijah Molden. This team has been searching for corners all year. The personnel started to show up a little bit. And I think the same thing happened at linebacker, because they had a couple big completions over the middle of the field. There was that Kirk 3rd and long early where he just stopped at the sticks. I don't know what number 50 was doing. Then there was the beautiful completion that Lawrence had where he moved 50 with his eyes and came back to Ingram over the middle of the field. So I think you're David Long not playing. And then again, some of the other personnel issues that you saw from Tennessee, whether it was a lack of pass rush off the edge, lack of corner depth, you just start to see it really matter down the stretch in that game.
The all-pro second team, David Long. Spoilers. Yeah. I know, but that Chris Manhertz tendency is such a fun one because I think wrote about this a couple of weeks ago. Like tight ends that play 200 or more snaps, there were 73 of them at the time. So this was 2 weeks ago. He was 72nd out of 73 in run pass ratio. So on the field is how infrequently they pass. He was 72nd out of 73rd. So that's a real run heavy tendency for him, when he's out there.
When you
But
get into that, though, in a de facto playoff game, those are where you
yes.
can throw those haymaker counter punches and really make it count.
Just like us on these pre-shows, guys, like we get we got more data to work with now. So do the coaches. That's what we look at, the same kind of stuff. Theirs is more detailed, but that the quality control coaches look at and they say, oh, when this guy's in this game and in the slot, they do this, this, and this. Like that's what they could start breaking down. Instead of 3 or 4 or 5 games, now it's 17 games that they can look at this stuff. But if you notice, like too, the David Long injury, yes, being out, that's hurt him for a few weeks. But all the Titans linebackers were just pushing so deep on every pass play. They were like out of the frame, and that's why you saw Trevor having to check it down over and over and over, which was working for them. But like you said, Titans had a good game plan. They say we're not letting up any explosive plays in the run game or down the field. You guys have to nickel and dime us throughout the game. And the Jags had a couple moments where they shot themselves in the foot, so it was working to the Titans' favor. But Jags came out in the end.
You can't say enough about the job that Doug Peterson did and the staff, the job that staff did this offseason. I mean, obviously, they went and spent, which we also heard a lot about on the Saturday night broadcast, about the amount of money they spent in free agency and the willingness to do it. It's like, you spent in free agency because you've built your team the wrong way.
Right.
I think we have to understand that.
No one else to pay.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. They did bring in a lot of talent, and they spent a lot of money on talent, whether it's Kirk, Ingram, Brandon Scherf. I mean, they remade this roster in free agency this offseason, but I think that what you got from the quarterback, what you got from the offense overall, I mean, how much more professional and put together this team looked on that side of the ball this year compared to what they looked like last year. I mean, Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram aren't the sole driving forces there.
No.
Like, what's going on structurally was incredibly important to the strides the Jags have made.
They're getting used perfectly to their skill sets, with the quarterback playing exceptionally right now. So it's a pretty good combo for them to kind of have a great breakout years and be worth the penny that they got paid.
Yeah, it's not like this is the team that was like 21st in offensive efficiency that stumbled into the playoffs. They were very good on offense throughout the season.
Yes,
and they
just shot themselves in the foot in the red zone. That was their main
Agnew fumble. They
turnovers.
Two plays that were 4-point swings. The underthrow to Kirk that should have been a touchdown, but great play by Jeffrey Simmons, which that'll happen.
Pressure.
So I think you saw for the most part why that team has been really good on offense throughout the season. Kudos to them. I mean, you go from having the number 1 pick to making the playoffs, and I think that for most of the season, watching them on offense, it felt like they were a borderline playoff team that kind of deserved to be in, and they ultimately do it. So congratulations to them.